Welcome to this week's edition of Black Authors Matter TV, where we interview the latest movers and shakers in the African American literary community. You'll meet some old friends, discover new ones, and stay abreast of the latest book developments around the country and even the world. So sit back and relax for the next 2 hours with Black Authors Matter TV co-hosts Wynn Richardson and Dr. Rhonda Lawson.
Good evening. It's July 25th, and you've reached Black Authors Matter TV. I'm Wynn Richardson, your host for tonight, along with my co-host,
Rhonda Lawson. Good evening, everyone.
And this is a very special day because this is our 3rd anniversary. This show has been live streamed for 3 years, and we recently crossed the 500 guest mark a couple of months ago. Last week, we crossed 90,000 followers on Facebook for the National Black Book Festival Facebook page. I like to celebrate milestones because they're very important. And tonight, I won't be on with you all. Rhonda's going to be taking over. I have a very important rehearsal, and she is going to handle everything. That's so exciting that I have a co-host that can handle everything. And I want to say one thing about the anniversary. I wouldn't have wanted to celebrate this show with anybody other than you, Rhonda, Dr. Rhonda Lawson.
Oh, thank you, Gwen. And I'm just honored that you asked me to take this journey with you. I remember when you first contacted me and told me what you wanted to do. And then right after you told me that, you just went with it. It wasn't, there are some people who say, I have an idea and they never run with it. You ran with it, and the next day I knew we were on the air, and it's been full speed ahead ever since. So thank you for asking me to join this journey with you. I'm excited about it. I'm honored, and I just love watching you do what you do.
Oh, well, thank you. But I can't execute. That's one of my key characteristics is I can execute an idea, but I don't do a lot. That's the key to it. If you pull in 15 different directions, it's a lot harder. Well, we have an amazing lineup again tonight, and I'm going to switch over. Rhonda's going to be the host, and I am going to be off camera. I'm going to stay on until our first guest comes on, and then I'll be going to my rehearsal. But I'll see you all next week.
It's going to be
another amazing episode.
We're going to make you proud, Gwen.
Okay, we're excited. Our choir is going to be performing with Ricky Diller tomorrow night, and so tonight we have to rehearse with him, and so I didn't want to miss the rehearsal. So anyway,
I don't blame you.
Yeah. So our first guest is Nicole A. Taylor. She has a Juneteenth cookbook called Watermelon and Red Birds, and she was in the waiting room. Oh, you know what? I can't see her because I'm at the house. She's still there. I forget. Okay.
We're letting her in right now.
Okay. So we wanted to try to get her closer to Juneteenth, but the timing just didn't work. So we are welcoming to Black Authors Matter TV, Nicole Taylor. Welcome.
Nicole. Uh-oh. You're still muted?
Good evening. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for being here.
A pleasure.
Did you want to say hello before you have to sign off?
Oh, Nicole, I'm Wynn Richardson. I'm going to have to be signing off, but I'm glad we were able to get you on the show. It was a little bit of work, but persistence pays off. And so We're glad to have you. I'm going to watch the playback so I get to see your interview and all the other ones for tonight. So welcome to the show. And Rhonda is going to take over, and she's going to do a great job.
Thank you so much. Pleasure meeting you.
Okay, same here.
Well, first of all, welcome once again to the show. Thank you for joining us tonight. I'm looking forward to talking with you.
Thank you. Same. Likewise.
Thank you. So, well, let's jump right into this book. First of all, it's an interesting name. What made you come up?
Yes, Watermelon and Red Birds, a cookbook for Juneteenth and Black celebration. So I knew I was writing a book about Juneteenth. It is the first cookbook by a major publisher dedicated to the Juneteenth holiday. And immediately I knew that this book was going to be special, special in terms of I was going to be telling my very unique story to Juneteenth. So I started out very early in the process, like thinking of titles, possible titles for the book. And one day I was on New York City subway right before the pandemic, and watermelon and red birds came to me. Well, let me be more specific. Red birds came to me. I already was playing with the idea of having watermelon in the title or talking about watermelon in a way, but the story of red birds being good luck and being a special thing came back, and it came back to me in a way of the story that my mother used to tell me growing up. And that is, if you see a red bird outside, to blow a kiss is good luck. It's your ancestors. I grew up in the American South. I grew up in Athens, Georgia.
Okay.
It's also a very Native American adage of folklore. My mom would say, you know, if somebody from our family comes back to say hello, it's good luck, blow the red bird a kiss. And it was that moment that I knew that the word Redbirds would be a beautiful homage to Juneteenth, to our ancestors, to the present, and to the future. And then I mashed it up with watermelon because it's an all-American classic summertime fruit, filled with a lot of positivity, even though there's so many negative stereotypes. But I've found throughout this journey of promoting this book that many Black Americans have so many positive stories about gathering with their family over a big piece of watermelon. Like I have a same story. So that's how the title of the cookbook came to be. And it's funny because some my publisher and some friends, they were like, it sounds like a novel. I was like, I really want to stick to watermelon and red birds.
In a way it does. It almost sounds like a historical fiction novel.
Yeah, it does. I mean, and listen, you know, it's very much a cookbook, but it's very much, I am a writer. I consider myself a writer as well as a recipe developer. So when you look inside of this book, you know, there are essays, there are nuggets of historical tidbits or what I call breadcrumbs so people could want more. So I wasn't shying away from being a novelist. I kind of wanted to lean into that a little bit now when I look back.
Well, you know, that was actually going to be my next question. Is it just straight recipes, or did you have historic pieces in it? And you said you had a lot of nuggets in it. So did you write all of these yourself, or did you get people to contribute? And then what are some of the subjects that you talk about?
Oh, I 100% wrote about this. I actually have been writing about Juneteenth foods in a major way for the past maybe 5+ years, and I've been celebrating Juneteenth for more than a decade. One of the first pieces written about Juneteenth foods was in the New York Times food section, written by me, and that was in 2017. And that is, I mean, it was a reported piece about red foods and its significance. So from 2017 up until this past Juneteenth, every Juneteenth, I wrote a story for the New York Times about foodways in some matter. So I wanted to build off of the very detailed yet poetic stories of Black culture and Black life in Juneteenth. So each chapter of the book begins with an essay, anecdotes, stories, all of the head notes. And head notes are what you see above a recipe. A lot of times when you read head notes, people are telling you like, oh, you can use a corn zipper to get the corn off the cob. I do those things, making them instructional, but I also took my liberty in storytelling and, you know, saying people's names like Mr. Edward Juneteenth, Mr. Al Juneteenth Edwards, who was the legislator in the state of Texas, who helped Texas make Juneteenth a state holiday. So there are people and places that I knew super important for me to get and weave into the book. And I was able to do that through the head notes and essays.
I hope you mentioned my sorority sister, Miss Opal Lee.
Of course. Come on now. Come on now. She starts off the book. I mean, you can't, you know, listen, Miss Opal Lee is the face, the mother, the godmother of Juneteenth. But I mean, you know, it was super important for me to raise up her name as so many other Texans. like Mr. Edwards, who have fought for decades for Juneteenth to get this national recognition, as well as state recognition in Texas. So I was sure to raise up a lot of people's names for sure.
Okay, I had to make sure, because this whole interview will be over.
I got you covered.
All right. So tell me about some of the recipes that you have in the book.
Yeah, so I should say this too. Juneteenth is in the sense it's over, but my mantra is Juneteenth can be every day. And the recipes in the book that's the summer right now. Like when I go to the farmer's market, when I go to my local grocery store, I bought plums this week. I bought nectarines. I have raspberries. I have all of the summertime fruits. I have all of the summertime vegetables in my fridge right now. I actually just scarfed down the okra and garlic rice recipe that's in the chapter called Everyday Juneteenth. So the recipes are not traditional Southern or another genre of American food, soul food recipes. They are recipes that I use the African American celebration table or long table, and I flip them on its head. For instance, you don't find a sweet potato pie in this book. You find a sweet potato spritz. I think it's a few reasons why. First, I wrote a cookbook, my first cookbook. This is my third cookbook that I wrote. My first cookbook is called the Up South Cookbook. And then I was a co-writer or helped put together the book inspired by Tracy Morgan's show, The Last OG. And there's so many other black cookbooks that have come out in the last decade that really dove into traditional black food. And so my goal, I was very intentional about making this book the 3.0 of black cookbooks, giving black creatives, black foods, black chefs permission to tell your story, but to go beyond your story, to do whatever food you want to. So all of the food is rooted in the African American experience, but it's not your traditional fried chicken. You got pretzel crusted chicken cutlet.
That sounds good.
And it's super easy. You can make it for a weeknight meal. You have a whole entire chapter. I started the book talking about red drinks and the significance of red drinks and how it connects Black people across the diaspora. And so you have, your strawberry lemonade for sure, but then you have the sweet potato spritz, which is a sweet potato syrup with all of the spices or many of the spices that you find in a sweet potato pie. And I'm adding cappelletti, which is an aperitivo to it. So the book is definitely speaking to Black culture, but I like to say it's Afrofuturistic. It's speaking into the future,
Yes. Now, have you made every recipe in there?
Of course. Yeah. So listen. I think a lot of people are very interested in how a cookbook gets made, right? As I said, this is my third cookbook. When you make a cookbook, so there are two things that are happening for me as a cookbook writer. This is not the process for every cookbook writer, but because I am a writer and I'm writing essays as well, I spend a portion thinking about, is this recipe, does it need to be a head note with techniques? And a head note can be like 200 words. I mean, when you start getting beyond 250 words, maybe that needs to be an essay. But I start off by thinking that, do I want to tell people something very particular about how to make this corn ice cream? Or do I want to tell a very particular story about hot links? So I first start off about figuring out what story I want to tell about each recipe or brainstorming. So that's happening at the same time that I am actually making a recipe sometimes 5 times, testing it, the pretzel, the chicken cutlet was always supposed to be just a regular chicken cutlet with panko flour and pounding out a chicken breast or a chicken thigh, and I ran out of breadcrumbs and I used pretzels. And so then I had to, when I started developing with pretzels, I had to turn around and make that recipe 3 times. So every single recipe in there, yes, ma'am, I've made it before. I made a honey vanilla ice cream just a few weeks ago. That's in the book. The okra rice. garlicky okra rice. I made that. So most cookbook authors are developing recipes, and after you develop them, you can test them yourself, or you can work with a partner who will recipe test them, who's a professional. People, there's a whole gang of people that you never even see, and their job is to recipe test. And in addition to recipe testing, volunteer testers, like regular everyday cooks testing, and they'll bounce back like, oh, this was a problem, or maybe you should just suggest this, or maybe you left the salt out. But no, recipe testing and developing is a very particular skill that cookbook authors, good cookbook authors have mastered or mastering in addition to writing.
I think that's a super important point, because often with cookbooks, we at home cooks, we fancy ourselves a good cook, being a good cook, and then we try to copy something that we saw in a cookbook, and it doesn't come out right, or it doesn't look the same as the picture, and we feel like we failed. So, and then it could be maybe because the people who made that cookbook didn't have testers, or maybe
That
it
is
wasn't
true.
easy as it looked, because sometimes we take shortcuts, when we're trying to follow a recipe.
Yeah, and I would say this too, just kind of behind the scenes about recipe testing and writing. Like, so you do all that. You write, I'm writing, I've tested, I've developed it, and then you go into a studio or your own kitchen sometimes, and you work with a food stylist and a prop stylist to take photos. I mean, and you may get there, and the food stylist who is making your food, sometimes people do it on their own. I was on set for 10 days as we shot this book. You may decide that you need to shoot the food a different way than what it may be in your recipe. So a lot of times, because you are on a deadline, or you're just like, you know what, I'm going to keep this picture as is, but the recipe changes, so it may not look identical, So I think people have to keep in mind, especially home cooks that are cooking from cookbooks, that there are so many factors, there's so many details, and that, I hate to say it, but I have hundreds of cookbooks. There are some cookbooks that the recipes are a little off. Just because once it goes through editing, it goes through a whole slew of people at Simon & Schuster, like for instance, my editor. And so somebody may clip off they may clip off a whole line because they'll tell you that your head note is too long. That happened to me. They're like, your head notes are too long. You need to lose 50 words. And sometimes, people, you lose your 50 words, and then just say, for instance, your 1 teaspoon of salt got moved in the production process. So we have to give people grace.
There's a lot that goes into a cookbook that I think people just don't realize.
Oh yeah, with a major publisher, yes, they want to make sure that home cooks have a great recipe. I mean, nothing is perfect, right? Everybody's stove is not the same. I'm not using the same pot that you may be using, but the goal is for people to have a nearly perfect or perfect recipe.
Now, these recipes, do you think they're pretty easy to follow for somebody who's going to try this at home?
100%. I mean, for me, like my first cookbook, when I go back, I think about how some of the ingredients are a little hard to find. I use a lot of specialty antebellum Southern ingredients that people would have to go online to find. And I kind of cringe at that. I'm telling people to buy pecan oil and, heirloom grits. And I'm like, did I do that? Yikes. But when I wrote Melon and Redbirds, the cookbook for Juneteenth and Black celebrations, I was like, listen, no matter what budget you're on, I want people to be able to walk to their bodega, their grocery store, their supermarket, and they'll be able to make 90% of the recipes easily. So you don't see a lot of specialty ingredients in here. I specifically wanted to make this super, super accessible.
Well, what type of feedback have you gotten back so far?
Oh man, it's been amazing. This book has been out. It actually came out last year, so it was in 2022, and it is the gift that keeps on giving. I've been super blessed. The first year of the cookbook, I had a spread in Washington Post and in the New York Times and all the major newspapers. Essence Print, I had a piece which was a big deal. I was like, I want to be in Essence no matter what. So that was
Everybody wants to
amazing.
be in Essence. I mean, you feel like you've made it when you've gotten
Of
the
course,
Essence, right?
of course. I was on the cover with Cardi B and her family.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so I was in that. And I mean, all of that is cool, but I will tell you the most amazing things is when people um tag me on Instagram saying that they made something. Like this past week, people made the June smoothie bowl. I have a smoothie bowl that has purple sweet potatoes. You can use regular sweet potatoes as well, and just like frozen berries. Um, and you can use yogurt or you can use some kind of alternate yogurt, and it's just a smoothie bowl, and it's in the Everyday Juneteenth chapter. But people are making stuff and they tag me, and even more so when people in my family call me and was like and say, "I made your peach molasses chicken for Juneteenth." That has me feeling really good. So
If family is doing it, that means it must be good because family is your hardest critic sometimes.
exactly. So it's been really good to have a book and to be the first, out of the gate with a cookbook, and to hopefully open up more doors for people to tell their story around Juneteenth foods and Juneteenth holidays. But it's gotten a lot of positive reviews because all people, Black people, Americans are super curious about Juneteenth. They're curious about the history of Juneteenth. They're curious beyond it being a Texas holiday. And as you can tell, this past Juneteenth, like it was everywhere. It's a newly nationally recognized holiday, and I'm blessed to be able to have been a pioneer in writing about it consistently when nobody was, and it wasn't planned. This is all like the divine, the most high, that I got the book deal when I got the book deal, and the book came out when it came out. None of it was planned.
Mm. Now, just for anybody who doesn't know, you weren't somebody who just woke up one day and said, "I'm going to create a cookbook." You, cooking is what you do. This, you actually do this, and you're in this. In fact, you are a James Beard Award nominated food writer.
Yeah, I was nominated for a beard, 2 beards actually, in the summer of 2020, the year that there wasn't a beard award. But I was nominated for a personal essay that I wrote for Thrillist. I was the executive food editor at Thrillist for over a year, and I wrote an article about Starbucks and coffee. And then also for Thrillist, in 2019, I worked on the Best New Restaurant package, which is a really big deal. A lot of the publications like Thrillist, Food and Wine, Bon Appetit, they come out with these big lists every year of the best new restaurants. And I was fortunate enough to really, I don't even think they've done a Best New Restaurant package since I left, because so much has changed. And the pandemic hit, and I think just the whole world hit. But I was the first person to like revamp how Best New Restaurant digital packages looked, and to like pull the veil back. Instead of having one person going to all these restaurants around the country, I created a very diverse panel of people all over the country, and they helped me to formulate who would be on this Best New Restaurant list. So it was very innovative. It had a lot of multimedia pieces, and my peers thought it was worthy enough to be nominated. So those 2 things were nominated. So it was a really big deal. And I think this past year I was on the long list of the Art of Eating Prize, which is a very prestigious all cash award that goes out to cookbook authors every single year. So yeah, I feel good. I know that, from 2020 up until literally 2022, I put my all in all, blood, sweat, and tears, time away from my small kid, my family, really working on the book. So even if it wasn't an accolade attached to it, I feel good knowing that I put something out in the world that has staying power.
Well, and that's kind of what I was going to say. It's because of, a lot of people talk about, the Food Network and things like that. That's really gotten people interested in not just cooking, but really the art of food. But it's also writers like yourself that have also piqued that interest to get more people into the love of food art, or some people call food porn. We sit and read these magazines about food or watch these TV
Yeah.
shows about food, even when we're not hungry. And that was unheard of probably a couple decades ago.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I was the person who too was like glued. I still watch YouTube videos around food all the time. Um, and food is the new rock. It's the new hip hop. It's the new Cardi B. It's the new Megan Thee Stallion. Okay, let's be very clear about it. And I will say though, and just to be very clear, since we are zooming in on Black authors and Black writers, that there is only a small group of Black food writers in this country, who are at the top of their game. And I'm privileged enough, and it can be very elitist. Listen, some of my colleagues who are on staff at places like Nikita Richardson is a Black editor who's at the New York Times. And you have now, over the last 3 years, you have a Black editor at LA Times and Washington Post, Arian Hutchinson and Danielle Dorkey. You have people like Osei Endelin, who's won 3 James Beards, and Adrian Miller. There are a lot of Black food writers who are pushing the culture forward beyond just, a pumpkin cheesecake or beyond just a sweet potato pie and beyond just fried chicken. They're going deep into identity, into why we make something that way, origin stories. So Black food is a very serious genre right now that is really growing. I mean, thanks to High on the Hog being on Netflix, Dr. Jessica Harris's book that was turned into, or
yeah, I still need to watch that.
What? Yeah, it's a must see.
And I keep telling myself I'm going to watch it, and I haven't done it yet, but it's on my to-do list.
Yeah, it's a beautiful show that really does, and my friend and colleague Steven Satterfield is the host, that really digs deep into Black food and Black food ways. And there's a season 2 is coming out. So I mean, they're opening up the doors for more Black shows that are fun yet serious, but also teach Black people and all Americans what Black food is and how the Black hands really were the first hands in the kitchen in the American South. In America, it was the Black hands doing everything,
You
so
wouldn't know that now, because the space is so dominated by non-Black people, and that when you do see a Black chef, it's only for a certain niche. And so often Black chefs don't get the credit for making elevated food. They're thinking that they're only going to be making soul food, they're only going to be making Southern food, but there's a whole gamut of food that Black chefs are making.
Yeah, it's a whole gamut of food that Black chefs are making. Not only Black chefs, Black food writers, cookbook authors. My dear friend Erica Council, she just came out with a book today called Still We Rise, and it's all about biscuits. It's 70 savory and sweet biscuit recipes. She's a Black woman living in Atlanta who started off as a blogger. Biscuits. It is the first cookbook about biscuits written by a Black woman, and there are a lot of them out there. But it's awesome. Yeah, so it's all about biscuits. She is a trained computer engineer who started making biscuits. Her grandmother is actually Mama Dips, which is like a well-known soul food spot in or Southern food. Let me be very clear, Southern restaurant in North Carolina. But no, we out here. Don't let the TV tell you something different. We are out here for sure.
Amen. But unfortunately, we have come to the end of the segment. It really goes fast, but I really, really enjoyed our conversation. I did put the link to your book into the chat, so all of our viewers can grab the book. Make sure you leave a review. Right now, there are 320 reviews on Amazon, but let's try to double that. Let's get some more reviews. Yes, it all starts with one, and then it moves up from there. So let's keep supporting our Black authors, our Black writers, and this cookbook is a part of that. So let's make sure we do that.
Thank
But
you so much.
and thank you for being on the show. Like I said, I really enjoyed it. I learned a few things tonight. I wish you all the best. I don't know if you have a copy of the book with you. You can show everybody real quick.
Do I have a copy of the book down here? What? No copy of the book. Oh, wait, hold up. Yes, I do.
There it
Booyah!
is. Watermelon and red birds.
That's the bag
This
with
is
the
a
beautiful
cookbook
funnel cake.
to Juneteenth.
There you go.
Yes.
Thank you,
Well,
Dr.
and thank you.
Rhonda.
You have a wonderful evening. God bless you and all that you do.
Thank you. Bye.
Okay, so now we are moving on to Miss Rita. She is coming in. That was a great interview, you guys. I love interviews where I'm learning new things, and this is a space that I didn't know a lot about, so I really appreciated this interview. So now we are moving on to our next guest. Miss Rita, how are you today?
I'm good. How are you? Thank you for having me.
And thank you for being here. We are talking now to Miss Rita Jordan, and the name of your book is 30
Jordan.
Days. I'm sorry, what did I say?
Jordan.
Oh, Gordon. I'm moving too fast. Rita Gordon, and the name of her book is 30 Days in Belfast.
Yes, thank you so much.
I like that title.
Thank you.
So what are we doing in Belfast for 30 days?
Well, so this is a fictional romance story about a woman named Ross, who goes to Belfast to do a favor for a friend. And that favor is to produce one of the largest European art exhibitions. So this is what you will learn about over the 30 days that is described in the books, and all the shenanigans that go on behind the scenes. And not only that, but what she's experienced over her 30 days in Belfast. So
Now, you can get yourself in trouble for 30 days in another country.
yeah, especially when there's some cute guys there. So
Those guys will do it to you every time.
yeah.
So what gave you this idea? I mean, well, first of all, I love reading books where it takes place in other places, because I learn a little bit more about that city as I read the book. So
Yeah.
did you happen to visit there and you just wanted to set a story there?
So the first the story came, and then I did the visit to do more fact checking and make sure that there was accuracy behind the locations and the things and the sites that I mentioned in the book. But the story of landing in Belfast just originally came from me, the ideal around, I had an ideal of a character in my mind, and I thought, well, where is this person's background? And it was a real person, and I was like, where is their background? And their background happened to be in Belfast, and so that's where the story, that's where the location originated from. And I was like, well, what if I threw his character into that location? So
That's what's so interesting to me, that you said the story came and then the visit to the city came. So did you just like, okay, this is it?
okay, so well, once I decided this is where it was going to be, I ended up having to go and just kind of research, right? Just to ensure that there was enough meat in the location to really facilitate helping move this story along. And then, so I ended up researching a lot of the different locations. So between Belfast and Dublin and the Causeway, and which is Northern Ireland, I really spent time researching the locations and where could this person be, places they could visit, things that they can see and do. So I put a lot of time in on the research on the front end of it. So
that actually adds a lot of color to the story, because you can actually deviate from the story sometimes and just talk about the character surroundings.
exactly. And I did a lot of that throughout the book. And some of the feedback early on that I've gotten was people felt like they were there, because I did take the characters to specific locations, and then I was able to describe in very intricate detail the surroundings and what they saw, what they were experiencing, and on the back end of it, while I was editing the book, I was able to then travel to Belfast and go and experience some of those things myself.
Was it kind of, because I know you had to do studying in order to write the story, but when you actually went there and saw the places that you were describing in the book, did it give you a deeper appreciation? Did you feel like you had to go back and maybe fix a few things? Like, okay, this is totally different from what I described, or this is even more beautiful than what I described. I need to include these details.
Yeah, there were some, I do mention like real details like restaurants and things like that. And there happened to be a restaurant that was actually that I had mentioned, and it so happened to be across the street from where I stayed when I was in Belfast. So I went to this restaurant, and then my experience wasn't the experience that initially that I had described in the book. So I ended up changing the name of the restaurant completely so that I could leave in the detail of the restaurant and the experience that I wanted the characters to have. So yeah, there were times where I had to change, but the richness of the sights and the surroundings. I mean, I grew up in San Francisco, so there's a lot of coastline here. So, the smells and kind of the things you described, you already have a sense of that.
Mhm. Yeah, you mentioned that you grew up in San Francisco and you live in Pittsburgh now.
Yeah, in Pittsburgh, California, so not too far away.
Would you believe I had family in Pittsburgh, California?
No. Cool.
Never heard of Pittsburgh until she moved there, but
Yeah, people think it's Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, so.
right. No, I knew you were talking about Pittsburgh, California.
Yeah.
But I think it's probably grown a lot since when my great aunt moved there.
Yeah, it's still small town, but yeah, there's a lot of development happening.
But yeah, I like small towns. They have character. And I think that's why I like the fact that you chose this city that a lot of people may not have been to, because you bring character to it. It makes people want to visit. I spent 5 years living in Europe, and I used to like to go to the big towns. Like everybody always wanted to go to Paris, but I like to go to those small towns, like right outside of Paris, the ones that you don't hear a lot about. I felt like they had the most character to them.
Exactly. Yeah, and Belfast, people may think it's big, but it's not. I mean, things are in like walking distance, and even in my book, I describe, they may get in a car, and then just in a few minutes, they've arrived at a specific location. A lot of that I had to take into consideration and all of the details that I was outlining in the that I wrote in the book. So how small it was, or just how fast a drive that it was to get to Dublin or to get to this other location. So
what book does this make for you?
this is my first one. This is my debut novel.
Oh, congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, I challenged myself to write this book.
You challenged yourself, all right. You didn't just write a story. You decided to take a story and put it in an entirely different country. And you just went on.
Yeah, it's like almost 400 pages. So yeah.
We're not seeing a lot of those big books anymore.
Yeah. For me, I didn't traditionally publish this. I actually published it on my own. And for the purpose of, I wanted to make sure that I was able to get in all the story that I wanted to tell and not have to cut it down. So it's why it's around 400 pages right now. So
you say you challenged yourself to write this book in 30 days. You were able to do a 400-page book in 30 days?
I actually I challenged myself to write it in 30 days. I actually wrote it in about 3 months.
That's still really good though. But I'm sure you had to use some discipline in order to meet that timeline, even if it is 90 days. There are some people who can't write a 100-page book in 90 days, and you were able to write almost a 400-page book in 90 days. So what was your writing process like? Did you have a schedule for yourself? Did you maybe go to a certain quiet area of the house or anything like that?
Yeah, I did. You're exactly right. At the time I was caring for my ill parent, my mom. She was suffering from Alzheimer's. So after I put her to bed and she was asleep, and it was around probably like around 10:30 to probably about 2 in the morning, I would just go into the living room, sit in a corner, and then just start writing what the characters were saying to me. So it just started out kind of with dialogue. And so I did that over a period of 3 months. And again, I just challenged myself. I had a lot of other stories that I had written, but I'd never finished anything. And this was my challenge to myself to finally complete something and get it finished. And I actually wrote the book in 2016. I just never did anything with it after that. So
So it was sitting around all that time.
yeah, I was sitting around for a long time.
What made you finally decide, okay, now is the time to publish my book?
Yeah, I was thinking about it a lot and I was like, let me go back to edit it. And so I really had to, Dr. Lawson, I had to teach myself the whole process because this is not my trade. I'm not a writer by trade. And so I think some of it might have been just fear, why I kind of let it sit for a while. And then I had to train myself. Okay, what is the process of writing? What are some of the things that I need to look at or consider? How do I even edit my own writing? So I took a lot of online courses, just, free online courses, and I did some research. And I started that in 2019. And then and then a pandemic hit. And then in 2021, I just was, okay, let me just buckle down and just get to the bottom of this. And then by the time I finished editing it, I sent it to a development editor and I was like, okay, let somebody else look at this. By then, that was the first person who looked at the book.
Well, now when you sent it to the, because first of all, I want to tell you congratulations, because not only did you really carve out the time and discipline yourself to finish this book, but you also took the time to take classes to make sure that you understood the publishing process, understood the writing process, and then you applied all of that to your work. But now you're trusting somebody else, a developmental editor, to read this story and help you to get it where it needs to be for publishing. And sometimes that can be nerve-wracking in itself because you don't know what this editor is going to come back with. You don't know if they're going to say, this is terrible, you have all these holes right here, or you need to fix this, you need to fix that, where I don't understand this motivation. And then do you feel like you were open to that, to whatever type of constructive criticism?
Yeah. By then I was like, because I had been reading it so much myself and I was like, I need help to get it to the next stage. And by then I was ready for it. And so I was open to the feedback. And, sometimes the feedback is hard, right? It's like, this is my baby. And,
Exactly. You don't want anybody messing with your baby. And you don't want anybody messing with your creativity.
That's right.
You're messing with my art. What are you talking about?
That's right.
So did you have to kind of coach yourself? Okay, all right, here's the email. Let's see what she says. Or
Yeah, because she was giving it to me in chunks. And
that's
so
what I want to say. Did she give it to you a little bit at a time, or did she just give it to you all at once?
No, she would give it to me in sections, and then I would have an opportunity to ask questions on the feedback. And then sometimes I would go online and I go, well, what is she really talking about here? Right. Because again, this whole writing process this is not my craft, right? This is not, I've been leading global recruitment teams. This is not what this had nothing to do with that. So I had to go and still even do some further research. But yeah, I took the feedback that she had and applied the feedback, and the book morphed even more. And then, I went on to the stage where I, began to, later on, I had beta readers, and, that whole process was.
Well, how did you choose the editor that you wound up hiring?
Yeah, I was looking online and just researching different people, and then I went through like Fiverr and some other things, and this woman's name came up a couple of times, and she had a PhD in, I think, a rhetoric or something like that. And so I was reading some of the stuff that she had done, and then she was teaching, in school. And so I was just like, okay, I'm going to land on this person. And then that's who I landed on. So.
And so she made herself visible. That's awesome. Now, did you ask for copies of or samples of her work?
The person I had already seen, because that person had samples online.
Oh, that's good. Well, that's
Yeah.
good. Because the reason I ask these questions, these are some of I teach an editing workshop, and those are often some of the things that I tell people when they're looking for an editor. These are things that you should do. You know, look at their credentials, ask them for samples of their work. Make sure that they specialize in the type of writing that you're doing. Because maybe a novelist might not be the person to edit your medical journal, or or maybe somebody who does textbooks might not be able to turn their mind off of that type of professional writing and move to professional fiction writing. So that's the reason why I ask the questions, because those are some of the things that I tell people to do when they're looking for an editor.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. With everything that I did, I had to do a lot of research just to kind of figure it out. And you're right, you have to look at people's credentials and what work they've done, and and then and get references and all of that stuff. So
Absolutely. So how has the feedback been for your book? It was just released in February, this
so it
past
was
February.
released in February. So far the feedback has been good. So editorial reviews have been good. Readers' feedback have been good. So I'm hoping more people that have read it go back and put their reviews online. So but I'm excited. You never know when you put your work out into the world what the response is going to be. And so I was pleasantly surprised.
It can be nerve-wracking to put yourself out there, because often people will never meet you in person, but they're going to see your work and they're going to have a judgment of you based on the work that you have presented to the world.
Exactly.
And so kind of open yourself up to judgment. It's just like if you decide you want to be a YouTuber or even a reality star, people are going to judge you and think they know you based on what they see. They don't always get to meet the real person. So it can be scary to put your work out there.
Oh my goodness, yes, definitely.
But you did it though. You did it. So it's all good. And it's
Exactly.
going well. So
Thank
do you
you.
think you'll write another book?
Yeah, I'm in the process of writing another book right now. I still have some research to do. With anything that I do, I try and make sure that I get the details right. People wanted me to put out a sequel to this book, but I don't feel the characters in my head right now. I do have a partial story started, but right now I'm working on a book that's going to be the characters are in Seattle. And so there's some additional research I'm going to do. It's going to come out in a 3-part. I started it out as potentially a novella, but now I'm getting over the 200-page mark. So it won't be a novella, but it'll be 3 parts. And the first book will end on a cliffhanger. So.
Okay, so do you think you are just prone to writing longer books?
Yeah, I don't know. That's a good question. I don't know. I think, when the characters start saying things, right, and you want to put that down. I mean, I know how to cut it back now. I've taught myself, if the dialogue is, if it's not leading the story forward, then I can, pull it out. But I don't know. And maybe that's probably why I will never be traditionally published, because
Don't say that. You never know. But I'm glad you touched on dialogue. Often you'll find that the dialogue repeats something that the narration has already said. If the narration is already said, that the dialogue can just enhance that. They don't have to repeat it. Like the person walked up to the red car. I see you have a red car. You don't have to do that.
right, exactly.
Yeah, maybe they're looking at the car and then they say nice car or something like that, but it should be something that enhances the narration. It
Yeah,
shouldn't repeat the narration. And so sometimes
exactly.
it's something that we use to kind of whittle ourselves down when we find ourselves repeating information.
That's exactly right. Yeah. Yeah, my dialogue I found was it was more, there was a lot of conversation that was happening. And then I found myself having to just pull it back and only talk about the topics that were helping drive the action in the story, what was happening, or relaying emotions, that they were, feeling, etc. So
Yep, that's the way to do it. Now, I know we touched on this a couple of times, but what do you think are the two biggest lessons that you've learned in this process of writing your first book?
probably the first is, the art of discipline, just to, you've got to be focused and have, some discipline, even if it's just figuring out, like you said, a time or a space or a place that you go that you dedicate to writing. Because you need to do it uninterrupted. And so just having a sense of discipline. And the other thing was just for me was just around accuracy and detail. I people have read my book and they're like, oh, I Googled this. And I was just like, ah. I was like, well, thank God this is a real place and
I'm telling you, I'm one of those people. If I'm reading a story, or even if well, most times when I'm reading a story, if I'm watching a movie or something, and something really captivates me, I want to know more about it. So I might stop reading the book just so I can go look it up and see if it really happened this way, or if it really looks like that, or maybe I might want to visit this place one day. So I'm one of those people.
well, that's exactly what happened. And I was at this book thing the other day, and one of the ladies start pulling up something on the internet.
You're like, oh, I'm glad I did my research on that.
I was like, I'm glad I got this together.
Oh wow, you know what? I mean, you make good points. Do your research, because on the other end, there have been times, especially when people write about my hometown. I'm from New Orleans, and if somebody writes about my hometown and they kind of lean toward the stereotype or the commercialism of the city, I can tell that maybe they didn't really visit the city, or maybe they didn't do their research on the city. There's heart and there's hope, there's soul in New Orleans. And I feel like sometimes if you're going to write about the city, you should really try to capture that. So
Exactly.
yeah, people have an ownership. It's like me trying to write about Pittsburgh. I've never been to Pittsburgh, and I take that back. I was there once when I was younger. I went when I went to visit my great aunt. But I haven't been there enough to write about the city or to know about the city. I'd have to really do some deep dive research in order to write a story that takes place in Pittsburgh, California, and have somebody who's from Pittsburgh, California, like yourself, read it and say, yeah, she really caught that. She really captured that.
Yeah. And in my story, I talk about a lot about art because she's curating an exhibition throughout the entire story. And the point is to get to this exhibition, right? And and then there are some real pieces of art that she's, curating to get included in that exhibition. It's like, so I had to make sure, that I know exactly what this piece of art looks like, and and I know about the artist, et cetera. So, a lot of those details, you really have to ensure that you get it right.
Absolutely. Now, do you have a copy of the book?
Yeah, I do.
I thought that was the book right behind you. Okay,
Yeah,
it is the book. Okay, is that a rose?
that's a rose. So in the book, one of the characters refers to her as Night Owl. And so Night Owl is a version of a variety of a rose. So, but yeah, so this is, represents her, and then the cloak of you're not sure what man she's going to end up with because she's got some options in the book. So there's a lot of like distractions that she has and love interests.
I hope she got her work done. There was a reason why she went there. Don't be getting distracted by these men.
Yeah, and that was kind of the genesis. She's trying to she's walking, she's trying to figure out, do I want to become, my father's predecessor as the CEO of the company, or do I want to follow this other passion? And if I'm following this other passion, how do I get there without all of these distractions?
Right. Well, now I will ask you with the cover. The cover absolutely is beautiful.
Thank you.
Did you hire out for the cover design, or did you create it yourself?
Yeah, no, I hired someone to do this one, and I do have one that I just did for like just straight paperback. This one I did myself.
Oh, okay.
That's more of kind of like, what you probably see some of the people on TikTok and those things have. But yeah, I did hire a person. I went through the search process to look for someone, and I was looking for someone who had a background in like fonts and that knew, because I just felt like the words needed to be big, and somebody had an ideal around or had a background in fonts, and so I did a research on a few people, and I settled on one individual.
Okay, so I'm sorry, I forgot what I was about to ask you. I totally ran out of my head. But no, but actually what I was going to ask is, why did you decide to use a different cover for the paperback versus the hardback?
Yeah, so you can still get the other one and paperback, and yeah, but one of the things that I was noticing was that there was like discrete covers and non-discrete covers that is kind of like the trend. And so this one felt more like a discrete cover. And so I wanted to make sure that I was capturing the audience that was going more for the covers with like the guys on it and stuff like that. So, but this is kind of a version of that, but it has the woman though, kind of clutching the guy. You still really don't know who he is. So
I like that you put a lot of thought into that.
yeah,
Cover
yeah.
is often what attracts people to the book. I mean, people will see the cover, and then they might turn to the back to read the synopsis or the inside cover. If it's a hardback.
Mhm.
But those are the things that attract the person to the book. So you have to put a lot of thought into the cover just to get people to pick up the book.
Yeah, yeah. And then like this one, like they all have the, kind of the scenario of the story, the blurb of the story on the back. So you get that with both of these, the blurb on the back, and then you also learn about me on the inside. So
Gotcha. So what's next for you? We have a couple of minutes left, but what's next for you? I know you said you have another book already in the works. But this book's been out since February. So are you still promoting?
yeah, I'm still promoting this book. So I'm going to continue to promote this book from time to time, but I want to make sure that I am dedicating the time to doing the research, and so that I can finish up this next book that I'm working on, because I really want to try and get that one out before the end of this year. So
Ain't around.
and this one, believe it or not, I didn't start until like June. So prior to that, I was working on something else. So it's honestly, Dr. Lawson, I just want to get these stories out of my
Totally understand. I totally understand. Well, I did put your website in the chat, and
Oh,
I'll put your
great.
website in the book link into the chat. So to all of the readers who are watching the show right now, I encourage you to go out and get this book. This is not a one-day read. This is something that you can take in chunks, I think. This is the book that you can take to the beach, the book that you can take on a flight, maybe the book that you keep in your purse, and then when you're going to the DMV, because they're gonna have you sitting there all day, you can pull this book out and just get lost in a good story. And
Yeah, and you have a discreet cover. So
yes. So I think that's what I like about longer books, is that they can be an experience. They're not something that you can just rush right through.
yeah, and this is one that you can immerse yourself in, right? It's just not, there are no tropes or anything like that in it. It's a really immersive story. You get a feel for another country. So you really can get lost in the book.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Miss Rita, for joining me tonight. I'm sorry you didn't get to see Gwen. Gwen had to go to a rehearsal, but we are celebrating our 3rd anniversary of Black Authors Matter TV. So I appreciate you being a part of this anniversary show.
Thank you for having me. This is such a pleasure to be a part of this, and thank you for the work that you're doing.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure talking with you. You have a great night and best wishes on all you do.
Thank you. Bye.
Okay, you guys, that was Miss Rita Gordon, and we are moving on to our next guest, and we are letting him in right now. Okay, there he is. I thought I lost him for a second. So everybody, please help me welcome Mr. Michael Wynn. Hi, Michael. You're on mute. Can all right.
There we go.
Okay.
All right. How are you doing this wonderful evening?
I'm wonderful. How are you?
Doing just fine, just fine.
Well, Gwen had a rehearsal tonight, so she's not able to join us tonight. So it's just me and you.
Oh, great, great, great.
Well, I heard this rumor that you are going to be teaching a seminar at the National Black Book Festival.
Yes, looking so forward to it. Excited about talking to authors about habits, financial habits.
Oh, okay. Let's talk. I like these types of interviews.
Well, where do you want me to start? My end story, the habits. There's a story how I built habits. What my background is and what I speak of.
Yeah, and you're going to be talking about, speaking of habits, the name of your book is called The Habit Effect.
Yeah, that's my second book. My first book was called Habits Don't Lie, and my second book is called The Habit Effect, and that's what I'll be going over mostly with the financial part of it.
Okay, so are you saying then that often we may be in certain financial situations because of certain habits that we have when it comes to spending or saving money?
Absolutely, absolutely. I experienced an incredible transformation. That's where it got me as a habit. I coined myself as a habit success strategist and a financial literacy expert, which I wrote my second book because I went through a whole transition. It's another story, but to put things in perspective, because this book does pick up where my first book went. As a financial expert, and I have an extensive background in finances. I worked for 3 different departments, including opening the first casino in Detroit. During that experience of working hard, doing the things that I normally do, I dealt with some problems that mounted to bigger problems. I was diagnosed with a bipolar depression disorder. And as a man, a Black man especially, the stigma of mental illness, you can't really show your hand, you just constantly work through it. So through that process, my family was dealing with me as a monster on that side of the coin. Long story short, I got help. I was on some aggressive medication. I had a therapist to teach me how and really inform me about what I did to get to the point that I was with my financial career is working with habits. And I developed a habit matrix to get off of the medication. I was on powerful medication, Prozac, lithium, Prozac, Depakote. And once I got off of that medication, I gave honor to Maya Angelou, which said, as soon as the healing takes place, go out and heal someone. So in that process, in Habits Don't Lie, I talk about even being a financial expert, how I went bankrupt, how I fell short to my own understanding. And my second book talked about my bounce back, talked about financial literacy, because I had a desire to teach people, in fact, on how they need to understand the marriage of habits. And the book itself, The Habit Effects, talks about value, focus, void, design, demand, follow. There's other parts to that is value good habits of financial stability, focus on understanding habits, that's what I mean, avoid financial stress, design a money flow plan, demand good credit, follow success, it's your business, and keep it, it's yours. I'm also a certified fraud examiner, so I tell people that whole process of how we have to understand this country is in bad desire need, not just this country, but this world. I'll start with this country. We're not even 70% financially literate. This country is only 65% financial literacy, and it's been that for the last 20 years. We've never reached 70%. So that's bad. Worldwide is only 33%. So as Black community, we are in desperate need to understand. So when we fall short, some of us can fall short and be in a bad situation for a long time, which I was fortunate to know that I had the ability to come out of my depression, come out of my situation in a record time. I built my credit back up. I just started repairing things. So when the habit effect came in mind, I actually talk about things that I did in the habit of Habits Don't Lie, and bring into perspective a money story. Everybody have a money story. I start out talking about a money story. My great-grandfather, who had a farm, and what he always said, write the plan, work the plan, and developing a process where we as individuals, we have all this spirit of being either entrepreneur, striving business person, someone that want to leave generational wealth. So where do we start? We understand habits, the stability and value of it, and then we can start talking about designing a money plan when we need individuals. In my book, I talk of a number of stories of individuals who wanted to start a business, worked in college. The book is not just for high school, but it's high school, college, and a lot of business people who wants their business people to make sure that they're understanding what financial literacy is all about. It goes beyond just having money, opening a bank account, which I talk about, using certain financial apps, which I talk about, but it goes into understanding how to follow a business, what is a balance sheet, what is the income statement, how to file timely. And
you mean it takes more than just not buying a $5 latte every day?
Yes, it does. And, our young people are so amazed. I'm amazed at some of them. I have a granddaughter I'm really working towards. When she stopped me to buy a Starbucks, and they don't even drink coffee. They just like the foo coffee. And you're talking about $8. Yeah, yeah. And once you tell them, you just have an outfit, in 6 months you can have an outfit for what you buy, then they realize it. And I do free camps. I try to get kids involved with understanding that whole process, because we all come from different backgrounds, and we have certain traits that we follow what we see. And it's so hard sometimes to break away from what we see, meaning that if we see somebody that's lived a life from paycheck to paycheck, then maybe we'll do that. If we see somebody that just spend and don't really track money and hope money just fall in their lap, then, we live that life. So the experience, go ahead.
I was just saying that's a really good point, is I often think that our habits are shaped by what we see every day. And if we come from an environment where, if I say I want to invest in the stock market, depending on who I talk to, that's a good idea.
Right.
So if I talk to somebody who's used to working, and they're like, I have to work every day, I need to pay my bills, I don't have money to be wasting on no stock market. You leave that for them other folks or the rich folks. That's not for us. That's the way they think. So investing in the stock market isn't a good idea. You talk to someone else who maybe is used to investing in certain things, they're going to say, hey, that's a great idea. Here are a couple of ideas of where you can put your money.
Absolutely.
Or some people are going to say, why would I put my money in the stock market when I can do such and such and make money faster? And it just kind of depends on who you talk to and who you surround yourself with.
It's so true, because the irony is you want a nest egg where you're putting more things in your basket. And just to learn, you don't have to be an expert in the stock market, but just to get an idea of how you can make money. It's called multiple streams of money. And young people need to understand that, you're putting your money aside. It builds you as a better relationship with just saying, okay, now I have this, and I can go over to this and look at this. And in no time, you're at least at a stability. I teach financial stability before freedom. People talk financial freedom, but they don't know what the importance of stability is, to learn how to make it a habit to pay your bills on time. And
we are in a society that lives off of a buzzword. So right now, say words like financial freedom and breaking generational curses. Those are things, those are social media buzzwords
Right.
now. So, you know, you'll have this person dressed in a nice suit, scrolling on their phone, sitting in their nice car, and they say, I'm breaking generational curses. Now everybody wants to go see what that person's doing. And
Right.
that person could just be putting on a show.
Absolutely. I see a lot of them that they really, in terms of really telling people the steps, it starts with stability, because you can't be free unless you learn consistently how to pay your bills on time, and how to be stable. It's not overspending, have enough money over. It's being, you have that 6 months of income set aside in case something happened, you know, and people are looking for the big win before they really understand that whole process. And so what I did in Habits Don't Lie is I talked about the habit loop, and I did also in the other book, is that you have to look at the cure, the routine, and the reward, and it has to go in that order. You know, I have a mentor, Dr. Delator McNeil, that says the mind doesn't like open loops, and it's so true. Open loops create problems. If you think that you have a clue and you just want to get to a reward, just like you spoke of, financial freedom and generational, you have to find, how do you get to it? You have to have a routine and an exercise in doing it in order to win. You know, now I often tell people, what is your end game? You know, and they look at me, I heard that many times, but yeah, what is your end game? You know, I just want to be rich. Okay, cool. I do too. How do you get there? You know, you established your end game. So how do you get there? So.
Okay, so in this workshop this seminar that you're going to be teaching, first of all, what day are you going to do it? Have you found out yet? Is it going to be Friday?
Yes, it'll be the 28th. Is that Saturday? It's that Saturday. I think it's the 28th.
Look at my calendar. I'm about to
At 1 o'clock. Yeah.
October 28th is the Saturday.
Yes, at 1 o'clock.
Okay. So we're going to be talking about the seminar, but are you going to maybe give some tips on what people can do to take control of their finances now? Right.
Because see, every industry, every area of work, you oftentimes have different ways of looking at your financial goals of how do you, and even writing a book is a plan, a business plan. What are you going to do after you write the book? You want to monetize it. You want it to make it whatever. You want to be on somebody's stage to speak, perhaps, or you just want to be a trainer. So you have in mind, even I would say those who have a hobby, they still want to have some kind of understanding of a plan, a business plan, or focus. Mm-hmm. So what I want them to understand is finances. They're creating unique way of getting to there is separating business and personal. That's the hardest thing to do, even for some of us. We like to use Uber, we like to use Cash App, we like to use all these different things, but we sometimes don't separate personal and business, and it's so important for a lot of reasons. It'll save you money in the end when you're doing your taxes with your CPA. There's not questionable costs of using personal. Mixing personal and business. So we'll talk about ways of people can identify flipping from the Cash App, signing out, signing on your personal business. Same with Uber, to make sure all those finances are intact, and then doing record keeping regularly, having a spending plan, doing your research. First of all, if you're writing a book, I'll be talking about that. My experience with writing a book is just like the young lady prior to me. She talked about research, and in that research is not just your industry you want to write in. You want to write it, research the costs, and just like she said, editing, because it's amazing how between the book cover, the editing, the marketing, how those ranges go back and forth. So you have to understand, where is this money coming from? You already have a plan of you gaining a certain amount of money, but you want that research done so you can put together the perfect budget. And what that entails is, like, you go into an editor. I heard editors 200 pages, say $400 or $500, and I heard some that say $1,200. depending on what kind of editor you get, there's some editors that challenge you in the words. I had two great editors. I had a librarian, and I had another, in my second book, I used two editors that would just edit the punctuation and all of the word tech. And then one that just challenged me, why are you saying?
I specialize in developmental editing,
Oh,
but
okay.
actually bringing a couple of people on my team who, once I've done that good developmental edit, because depending on the shape of the book that you send me, I might spend so much time fixing your sentence structure and your grammar that I might have missed that typo that you made because I was so busy looking at the big stuff. So sometimes I like to go through and I'll fix all of the big developmental stuff, the inconsistent characters and things like that. And then have somebody come in and read the book again when it's clean so they can find all of the typos or small grammatical mistakes that I may have missed. And because it results in a much cleaner product at the end. But unfortunately, there's this big movement now in the literary industry that you shouldn't pay for anything. And so people are trying to find the cheapest way possible to do certain things, and they're taking shortcuts that they don't need to take.
Well, yeah, everything is going to require some back end work. I mean, it's amazing. We can't fight technology. So IA is here, it puts stuff out, but guess what? It's not current. If you dependent on it, you have to have some kind of desire and understanding to go in and actually look at it, before you mess up and end up paying again. So there's a wide range of experiences that I want to share at the seminar on just really, if you in your area of expertise, whether it's books or if it's marketing or branding, on how you need to put budgets together, how you need to understand hiring the right consultants, finding out if you're doing the right research, just like you said, to make sure that you're getting the best product and services out of somebody, because people, oh God, you go on the internet now, everybody is this A1, they do everything together and standing in front. I had total experience with this producer from New York, and she had me cracking up. She was talking about a lot of these actors that she met personally, that they drive up in their Mercedes and they had the gold chains, and then she wanted to do some in-depth story and found out they living with their mother in the basement. And this true story, not the mother in the basement, and renting the cars and doing, and he did it on a regular basis. So all this, what I say is people see and hear. If you don't really go out, and there's ways to do that, because I am a fraud examiner, there's ways to find what y'all talk about, who is true to what they're doing and what kind of services you want to do the back end. And you want to avoid a lot of things that happen, especially in business. We are targets for phishing. We targets when we put our book out. We have to protect our intellectual property, our brand, all these things that's going to come together as an author, because you put your name out there and you put your brand in it so easily. I've went on many sites where some were good, some did me better services as far as taking my book and ebook and selling it. Well, they give it out with their book because their book was doing good. Now, I had a problem with one of them on LinkedIn. They did a cease and desist, but then there was a couple like Goodreads and all. I said, well, actually, they promote me. But the fact is, you have to have a clear understanding of how it's going to impact your brand, your product, and be aware of the of your future, because that's your baby. You put a lot of work in it.
You're preaching a sermon right now, because we do have to spend money. We can't just keep everything so close hold where we don't want to pay for things. But at the same time, we want to make sure that if we're going to pay somebody to do something for us, that they're actually going to do what they say they're going to do, and that they're actually real. And you're right, there are a lot of scam artists who prey on the literary industry. And I'm sure in every industry, they have their own set of scam artists. But, since we're talking about the literary industry right now, there are a lot of people out there who claim that they do something, but they don't actually do it. And there's a company I put on my TikTok probably about a month ago, that there's a company that has been around for a very long time. They're a huge company, but they basically prey on new authors. And they've been around for 20 years, making a lot of money, and no author has ever been happy with the work that they get from this certain company.
I think I know which one it is.
Oh,
No,
say,
go
we're not
ahead.
saying names.
I know, I won't, I know who you're talking about. I absolutely know, because I laughed. They called me and told me how much, and I did my research on them, and I warned people about them too.
Mhm.
Yes, yes.
Yeah,
And
but
you know, you have to.
make money. Because now, I don't know if we're just not telling people. If somebody calls me and says, "Hey, what company were you talking about?" I'm gonna tell them, but I'm just not gonna.
Yeah,
say
yeah,
that-
I understand. I'm the same way, but I do understand. But we have to really be careful. We don't want to become victims of things that we have to work towards, because people, I mean, people will get you out there in these different over these countries, or they'll say they can promote you, go to a different country, take your book there to a different level. And when you ask them for some kind of reference, it's somebody that they know, or it's somebody that they're well connected. So you got to spend the money to really feel that you can get the work, and you're getting it from somebody true and honest, you know, to make your business and brand grow. Yeah.
And I like what you also said about separating your business and your personal. That's something that in recent years I've been trying to do, because it's so easy to tell somebody, "Oh, just cash out me." And you're right. If we don't switch out the cash app, because you can switch your cards,
Yeah.
or like you said, maybe have two different accounts, one business, one personal. That's one thing. I'm trying to get away from using Cash App altogether for business transactions.
Yeah, it's not a bank. It's convenient on other people. I don't normally, I'll put it this way. I use it when it's somebody asks. I tell my students that it's not a bank. It's to me, it's the glorified party store. The checks, you go cash your check at the party store. I've had clients that have been doing it for years. Back in the day, I did taxes, and it was amazing how some people, skilled tradesmen that working in plant, will make $100,000 and never use the bank, just cash check. And Cash App is not, don't give any insurance or anything like that. It's just a convenient tool. But if you have to, because people, that's the way they do business, all you have to do is sign on business and personal. Because
Right.
if you get a lot of those transactions when you're doing your taxes, you know, the IRS, they do scans on certain people, and for whatever reason, they see a lot of personal transactions, and you explain it in there. They just make, it just makes matters worse. It's just easier to keep it clean, keep business. You want to know how much you have in your business balance sheet anyway. So you want to make sure you have those separated.
So the habit effect, is that more for small business owners, or is it more for people who are trying to get control of their personal finances?
The habit effect is for both. And what it is it's really just talking about the marriage of habits and finance. So in Michigan, what state are you in?
I'm in Maryland.
You're in Maryland. I don't know if it's one of the state, but there's 18, I believe, 18 or 26 states that they adopted personal finance, and for high school students to graduate, in order to graduate, we just did ours. It was only a half a credit, but it was something. I worked on Jumpstart, and I worked with the County Aid Society and another group as far as a push to get to the legislature to get that in place. And the governor just signed it last year. So what that means is that because we're financially illiterate, I start off for strongly suggesting high school students read it, but the college person and the business entrepreneur, because the business entrepreneur want to make sure that all of his people that he's working with are equipped to understand. So in that, it's a well-written, easy book to understand. It talks about habits, then it talks about, when I talk about finding money, I use examples of football players. I use examples of some things that experience individual people that have businesses that talk about their businesses. And then I talk about actually creating business. When I get to the business section, understanding the sole proprietor versus the partnerships and the other business structures, a business plan, what a balance sheet is. Those things they should know as far as getting cash apps. So I would say that high school to someone that is 30, I've been getting comments that some people have said, I never, if you get it, some of the people that did my advanced reading said that they wish that they had something like this to start understanding the different avenues of financial literacy, including Keep It As Yours, which talks about securing what you have, avoiding penalties, consumer penalties. A lot of times we do simple things like somebody will come out to your house, or they would come in and you got a service and they'll hand you the contract or the clipboard and tell you to sign it while they're working, and they leave and something is wrong. You signed it. And in my book, I always talk about the big print is for you and the little print is for them, because you're not going to see that little print that I just signed saying everything was okay. That's a big problem. That's called consumer fraud. That's a big problem. People, they coerce you into saying you good, or I'm in a hurry. Even a simple delivery, you saying that when you delivered it was fine, and that's the same as every contract and everything that I speak of on the finance end. So to answer your question, yes, it's for I would say the high school to college to first-time business owners and people that want to keep their business, their employees well-versed in financial literacy.
Do you have a copy of the book with you?
Yes. This is the book. I was fortunate to have my mentor do the forward on it. This is The Habit Effect, my second book. And Your Life, Your Money. It's on Amazon, and you can get on my website. Yeah.
Okay, well, I did put a copy of the link in the chat for the audience to go ahead and grab this book. Curtis Peterson said that this is a good conversation and he's loving it.
Oh, great. I'm glad he is. Yeah, we oftentimes shy away. When I used to go to speak, some of the people that called in church and said, you at least make it interesting, because finance is something people just don't want to talk about. The forward part about it, I said, well, what happens when you're in a situation and you want to get out of it? You got to go, just like going to the doctor, you got to get honest. You want the honest, what do I need to do to get well? It's the same way, is you want to go there and you want to understand what is it I need to do. And believe it or not, people go to, when it comes to credit, we all dip. It is not that hard. When I talk about it in Habits Don't Lie, I went bankrupt. I was like a 500. I went in no time. I got to an 800, and ever since I've been over 800. It's not hard to read. If you have a serious way of doing things, you change your habits, you change the way you're doing things, and believe me, your credit score will go up. You don't need to spend a bunch of money on credit repair to take something off that you did. You speak to it. You speak to the problems, and you can go in and you can actually create different ways of getting different avenues of credit, improving those ways, paying off certain things, staying true to the test, and your credit score will be back. Because you also want a business score too. As an author, you want to get a business account too as well. And you want your credit to reflect on your personal as well as your business.
Right, absolutely. So pay your bills on time, pay bills off so you can increase your credit, your debt to income ratio.
Yep.
And just give it time.
Give it time. Yeah. And in no time, you'll be amazed.
Okay, y'all hear that now? That was free game that he just dropped.
Yes.
Well, thank you so much for being on the show. I'm looking forward to seeing you in October. Of course, I'm going to be the official literary correspondent for the National Black Festival. So I'll be there doing interviews with some of the authors. I also interview the special guests, the special guest authors who drop by. I'll be interviewing them as well. And I actually have a little crew coming this year. There's a number of people who are planning on coming because they linked up with me. So I'm looking forward to seeing them too. Wow,
that's so good. Yeah, I'm excited. My daughter is in Houston, so I get to see her. She's a doctor, so she's yeah. So I'm going on, and she always put me to work. But I told her that weekend I can't work. I'll be there. So I'm looking forward to it.
Well, I'm looking forward to it too. My nephew lives in Houston, so hopefully I'll get to see him this year. My nephew and my niece. Hopefully I'll get to see them when I get to town. But yeah, like I said, I'm looking forward to coming to Houston. I'm glad that last year was the first year since the pandemic Of course, we didn't have it in 2020 or 2021, but we did have it in 2022, and it was a great turnout. We had a great time. And so now in 2023, we're looking forward to having an even bigger, even better time. So I'm glad.
Right. Yes.
Okay, well, I will see you in October. Thank you for a great conversation. I truly enjoyed it. And thanks for the free game that you just dropped on our audience.
Yes.
Everybody, y'all go out and get The Habit Effect. Let's go ahead and take control of not only our personal finances, but our business finances. The
All
link
right.
in the chat. So go ahead and get the book, and don't forget to leave a review.
Thank you. All righty.
All right, you have a wonderful evening. Thank you so much.
All right, you do the same.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye-bye. All right, y'all, we're moving on to our last guest of the night. Everybody, please help me welcome Danielle Marcus. She is coming in. Okay. Danielle, is that a picture or is that you? Oh, girl, you were sitting so still, I thought that was a photo. Okay, you're still on mute. Let me see if I can help. Oh, I don't think I can help. Okay.
All right. Can you hear me?
I can hear you now. I was like, Danielle, you were sitting so still. I thought that was a photo.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
How are you doing tonight?
I can't complain. No complaints. I'm excited to be here.
Well, I'm excited to have you. Welcome to the show. And welcome, by the way, to our 3rd anniversary show. So sorry you weren't able to see Gwen. Gwen had to step away today. She had a very important rehearsal that she needed to attend. So it's just going to be me and you tonight. But I am very happy to have you on as the last author for our 3rd anniversary show. So I'm looking forward to the conversation.
Me too.
That's great. That's great. So how's everything going? I think your book is called Thick of Love. That's interesting. And not only is it interesting, but it's released on a very special day today.
The anniversary.
I mean, July 25th is just great all the way around, isn't it?
I've been excited all day today. I just been super excited.
I'm excited for you. Congratulations on the new book. And can you tell us about it?
Yes, Thick of Love is basically women's fiction. So I take you through the emotions of 3 women. You know how us as women, we deal with a lot dealing with men and trying to find love and trying to water ourselves down so that we can hold on to love. So they go through their ups, their downs, and they discover, hey, love isn't supposed to hurt. So in the end, basically it's light at the end of the tunnel. So I just take you on the ups and downs. The main character, Dallas, is 3 main characters. Well, Dallas, she was in a relationship for 15 years, and it's like she gave him everything, all of her, thinking that would be her forever. However, he left her for someone else that he was cheating with. So it's like she has to learn how to not be bitter and how to not take it out on everybody else that follows. Then there's Sasha. She's been with Hunt. He's the perfect man for her, but she can't conceive. So, that has her questioning her womanhood and battling depression. It's just everyday things that women go through.
Now, I think often we as women, especially Black women, love to read books where we can see ourselves. You feel like your characters have a little piece of something that almost every reader can identify with?
Yes, I agree. And that's how I try to make all my books relatable, because most of the time my books may be about me and maybe about this person, that person, not to name anybody, but I try to bring reality into so they can relate.
Yeah, and that's what I was going to ask too. How did you draw on for their characters? Did you kind of draw from different people that and maybe kind of pull some things together?
Yes, I did. And actually, personal experience, I just really left a 18-year relationship. So I went through a lot of ups and downs with that as well. So that may be part of it. I've witnessed my sisters, my friends, my cousins, everybody going through it. So, you got to be careful around me because you just might end up in a book.
Well, I have a hoodie that I created, and it says, "I'm an author. I don't get mad. I just put you in a book."
That's right.
So, how many books does this make for you?
This makes book 28.
28 books, girl. You've been busy over the years.
Yes, this is actually my 10th year writing.
Wow, congratulations.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Now, are you writing full time?
No, actually, I started in 2013 and I published independently, and then I signed with the independent publisher. So from there, I started my own publishing company. So, just different.
Okay, so Odyssey is yours though.
Black Odyssey?
Yes.
No, that's Entice.
That's what I thought. I was getting confused. I mean, you said your own. I was like, wait a minute, I thought. Okay.
Yeah. Oh, I didn't finish the story. Basically, back in 2019, I was a full-time author from 2013 to 2019, and it got overwhelming because in this industry, you can't do everything on your own. You have to learn how to lean on people and how to, to outsource and everything. And I think what had happened is with me going through a breakup, with me going through everything, it just got too much and I just gave up and got a 9-to-5. And now I'm jumping right back into it.
Well, congratulations. And I know often that can be hard. I mean, I took a break from the literary industry for a while because I was trying to work on my dissertation, which was a whole drama in and of itself. But then once I came back out of that, I said, okay, I'm ready to start writing again. And sometimes it feels hard to just jump back in. It's like double dutch. Like, okay, how do I get back in? What do I do? And then like you're relearning the industry. So there's a lot, but having Entice, who's an awesome person, to just kind of help you along the way. That when you have somebody like that in your corner who truly wants to see you succeed and is not taking advantage of you, because I was just saying with the last interview, there are a lot of people out there who prey on authors, on the literary industry. But
Yes.
thank God Entice is not one of those people. She holds your hand through the process. She wants to see you win. And that's a great thing to have. That's a great person to have on your side in your corner.
I totally agree with you. I totally agree.
So what are you doing now to celebrate besides talking to me?
Well, I was gonna have a margarita, but then I said that's okay. So tonight I may not celebrate, but this weekend I might go out and have a drink or something just to celebrate because I'm excited. And then also the book Thick of Love, it was originally titled Love All Over Me. So we have a movie coming out for it as well. So for Thick of Love, the movie should be out, I say around fall, maybe September, October.
Okay, so you've already started filming it?
The movie is actually already filmed. It's in the editing process now. And it's starring for Sasha is Erica Pinkett from Love and Hip Hop.
Oh, you have been busy.
I've been busy. I want to come back to the force. I want to take off running.
Look, I'm not mad at you. You're doing it right, and that's the other good thing about Entice is she knows how to do all of this. She's been doing this for years. So I love that, and I love that for you. That not now you've come back with the book, and you've turned it into a movie.
Yep, and actually, the movie will be done with Murray Productions. That's a filming company here in Detroit. An awesome filming company. So, yep.
So tell me about that process, because often with when you turn a book into a movie, we have a tendency to try to want to make the book or the movie exactly like the book was, but you have to take a few liberties. You have to change some things here and there because a book is long. A movie script is only maybe 90 pages.
Correct.
It might be less than that.
And with turning a book into a movie, you have to take out all that wordiness, because with the book, your job is to describe through words. And with the movie, it's through, visuals. So it was hard learning, okay, I got to take this out. But no, that's an important detail. But you got to learn how to, instead of telling the detail, you have to show the detail. So that was hard adjusting to that. But we worked together and we got it done. So that was a nice experience.
Well, how was the process for you? Did you have to, let's start from the beginning with the script. Did you write this, you wrote the script with somebody else, or did you write it and then maybe have somebody to kind of look over it for you? How did that part work?
I broke the book into script form. And then after I broke into the script form, I sent it over to the production company. And if they seen, hey, we don't need this, we don't need that, they just cut, certain stuff out. And then if they say, hey, we should add this, then he added that, that.
Okay, now once the production company starts to actually film, and now you're seeing your story really come to life, because I turned 2 of my books into stage plays, and just watching the actors bring my characters to life, and maybe even put something into it that I hadn't even thought about. I mean, it was a surreal experience for me. So I'm just imagining you watching these actors bring your story to life. How did that feel? What was that process like?
It's kind of indescribable, because it's like, hey, I wrote that. They said, "Ooh, that's kind of good." So I was like amazed, because when I started, I can't say with anybody else, I'm just regular Danielle from Detroit. So I just don't see it. So to see somebody actually acting out, to see somebody interested in taking it on and filming it, it's just, I can't explain it. And I just can't wait for everybody to see it, to see if they, what really amazes me as well that I didn't say is that the director, he saw exactly how I saw it and brought it exactly how I saw it. So points that even I maybe struggled to bring out, he knew what I was trying to say, and he knew exactly how to bring it out with the characters, to tell the actor, hey, they're going through this, you got to bring more emotion, you got to do this. And I'm like, yes, that's exactly what I was trying to say.
Right. Now, was there did any of your characters in the book have a different personality from the character? It was the same character, but maybe the personality was a little different in the movie?
I think the character Devon and the character Diego was a little bit different from the book, but they still brought it.
Yeah, I'll tell you, I had when I did my last play, Twilight, there were 2 characters. I did not picture that personality when I wrote the book, but my director wanted to have them have just a little bit different personality, to bring a little comedic a comedy to it. And I watched him, was like, you know what, that really fits. He's saying the same lines that are in the book, but he did it in a funny way, but it fits.
That's how I was. That's exactly how I was.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the most fun thing about watching somebody bring your book to life.
Yes.
You think you might want to make more? You have 27 other books now. You gonna make any of the other books into a movie?
Definitely. We actually, before we filmed Thick of Love, we had another movie called Confessions that actually goes on a streaming platform sometime within the next month or so.
Okay.
So, and then we're working on another script. And I don't know if I love writing scripts more, if I love writing books. I'm definitely not going to stop writing either and working on either.
No, man. Now, what's the biggest lesson you learned about writing a movie script?
The biggest lesson I learned is you have to write for your budget. You can't make this extravagant scene and everything, because how you gonna get on top of a building, and how you gonna pay for busting out cars or jumping out there? So you have to write for your budget, and then you have to, what you may have in your head, it may not be what the audience portrays. So you have to really know how to bring what you're trying to say to the screen.
That's right. That's right. So now, when are we gonna be able to see the movie? Or
The
where
movie,
are we gonna be able to see the movie?
the movie will be premiering in August, September, but with the movie, it's not just put it up there and it's a go. It has to go through distribution. So when we get, after it go to the distributor, sorry, I don't know why that works, sorry. Then I guess they give us a time frame of, when it is, so I can't really say, but hopefully it'll be before the end of 23.
Well, you are really going to be in the thick of love for the rest of this year. You have the book released today. You have the movie that hopefully will be released later in the year. So yeah, you are really going to be in the thick of it.
Yep, and I'm actually have another book coming through Black Odyssey called Jack Girls that'll be out in November.
Oh, so you have been busy. Okay. So
I'm
now,
coming back for the first.
did you find yourself writing 2 books at one time, or did you just start on one right when you finished writing Thick of Love?
I worked on 2 books at one time, and then after I got so far, I stopped and just solely focused on this book and then solely focus on the next book.
Was that a bit of a challenge not to get your characters mixed up, or having 2 stories maybe in your head at the same time, or were you able to compartmentalize?
With me, actually, outlining is my best friend. So before I even start writing, I know how I wanted to start, I know where I wanted to go in the middle, and I know how I wanted to end. So that helps out a lot with plotting. So whenever I get lost, I can always go back to my notes, because I got like a book Bible for each of my books. So I write the characters, descriptions, I write the little quirks and everything. So if I forget something, I just go to my Bible.
I love it. I love it. I love it. I have some of the people who watch the show know that I have a TikTok account, and I put writing tips on my TikTok, and that's one of the things that I talk about is doing character descriptions of every main character who's going to be in your story. It helps you to just keep your characters straight and keep them consistent. You don't you want their habits to be so much a part of them that if you were to describe a character without using their name, the reader knows exactly who you're talking about.
Exactly.
So what are some other things you include in your book Bible?
I have the character description. I have a chapter breakdown. So with the chapter breakdown, I basically write who's in the scene, what's going to happen, and the value of the scene, so I don't forget why I'm writing that scene. And then I have was the character description, character quirks. I have the chapter outline, and then I have something, the acts. So this act 1, act 2, act 3. I do that, break it down into acts, so I can know like where I'm going and stuff too.
That works out, and that helps you to keep things straight. Do you ever find yourself having a certain scene, you're not ready to get to that scene in your writing, but this scene is in your head? Do you ever just kind of write it out and then fit it in, get it in where it fits in later or anything like that?
I bought a tape recorder, so if I have an idea that comes to my head, I just talk into my recorder, and then that way I come back and listen to it.
Yeah, and now I've done the recorder thing every once in a while too. Like if I have not had time to sit down and write the story, but I have this story in my head, I just kind of say it on my voice to text, or so what I'll do is I'll pull up the notes function on my phone, and then I stick it into my phone and it writes it down for me. And then I just email it to myself later, and I'll just fit it in where I need it to be later.
It writes it out for you?
Yeah, you know how you use voice to text when you need to text somebody and you're just speaking it?
I never did it, but that's a good idea.
Yeah, so if you pull up the notes function, all right, let me see. I don't know if you can see my phone now. I have an Android. You better not say nothing about my Android, because I like my
I got an Android too.
Good.
Android 5.
All right, I'm gonna see if I can find it. Okay, so this is my notes function on my phone. So there's a little microphone. Oh, there's a little microphone right here. Oh, I just messed it up. Hold on. Okay, so there's a microphone right here. So now I'm just going to talk into my phone and tell it what to do. So now it just typed all of that on there for me.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, see, now it hears you, so it's typing that too.
Now I'm gonna try that. You just gave me a great idea.
Yeah, so now when you finish typing all of that, you can actually email it to yourself. So if you go to the little dots up here, I think it's the dots. Anyway, it's somewhere on here. You can just email it to yourself. And I don't even care if the spelling is wrong, because I'm gonna fix all of that when I put it into the manuscript anyway. But that's
Correct.
just me out a little bit. Whenever I know I'm on the go, but I haven't been able to sit down to write, I'll just type it into my my notes function on my phone and just email it to myself.
Okay, that's cool. I
Yeah,
learn
see,
something new every day.
it's not too far from what you're doing anyway, you know, because you're recording yourself. I'm kind of recording myself. I'm just typing it so that way I don't
Right.
have to transcribe it later. So it's kind of the same thing you're doing.
Right.
I'm so glad I could just give you a little nugget there.
Well, I appreciate it.
So do you have any book signings or any book events coming up in the next month or so?
Yes, we have a community day with Murray Productions where we're going to go out. We're going to give out book bags. We're going to give out free food, have music, have comedy, and a little. It's a singer from here from Michigan. It's actually the 27th, which is Thursday. So, and I'll have books there. And then on August 19th is the official release party, and it's going to be in Southfield, Michigan. And
Okay.
then
Oh no, I was just gonna ask with the release party, is that an invitation only thing, or is that open to the public? Can we tell people to get on out there?
anybody that want to support me can come and support me. I don't discriminate.
So where can people find information about the book release party?
The flyers should be ready by tomorrow. So I'm going to post flyers, and then I'll probably have them around the city. So it'll be on my Facebook and all my social medias. And then my website is under construction. So it should be up within the next week or two.
Okay, but I did put your Instagram in the chat. So everybody make sure you go ahead and follow Miss Danielle, so you can be one of the first to find out about her book release party, which will be August 19th. Well, let's make sure that you are there, and make sure that you order the book. The book was just released today. Order the book, and don't just order it, but read it. And don't just read it, leave a review. I've been saying this all night, leave a review, because that's the way authors sell books. There are some people who will not buy a book unless they have read a review. Isn't that right?
That's definitely right.
Now, is the book only in is it only in book form, or is it also in audio, Kindle, or anything like that?
It's an audio book. It's in Kindle. It's audiobook, Kindle, paperback, and the paperbacks, it should be in Walmart and Target whenever. I guess it goes by schedule. So we're waiting for them to be in stores.
Okay, awesome. So no matter which way you like to read your books, you will be able to find your book the way you'd like to read the book on Amazon, Barnes and Noble, website coming. It's gonna be everywhere. So there's no reason why you can't support this book. Isn't that right?
That's right.
Do you
And
have a copy of the book with you?
I'm sorry.
You have a copy of the book with you? Oh, what a pretty cover.
Thank you.
I love seeing chocolate girls on the cover.
Oh, I thought it was so pretty when I seen it. I said, ooh.
So did you create the cover, or did they come from the publishing company?
It came from the publishing company.
Oh wow, so that's a nice surprise.
I know.
And so when you started, like, oh, I love it, or did you have any contribution or input into how you wanted the cover to look?
I didn't have any input. That they sent it over, and I said, wow, I love that.
Yeah, I love being surprised.
Too.
Because if they especially understand your vision for your story.
Right, exactly.
Okay, so let's see. Now, the book was released today. You say you have a couple of book signings coming up, but your official book release will be August 19th. And then the movie will be finished later this year. And then
Correct.
you're working on the next book, which you expect to be out in November.
The next book is already complete and turned in, so it's up for pre-order now, and it'll be released in November.
Wonderful, wonderful. And what's the name of the new book?
It's Jack Girls.
Jack Girls. And what's that book going to be about?
That book is about 3 women who they were put in a situation where they were forced to basically do what they have to do to get out of that situation.
Well, Tony Bonita said that she just saw that book today on her feed.
Okay.
I love it when a plan comes together. Oh man, I love it. I love it. Well, congratulations. Congratulations on everything that you have going on. This is going to be an exciting second half of the year for you. I can already see it.
Yes, I'm thankful.
So, show us the book one more time.
Sure.
Okay, so this is Stick of Love, just released today. Make sure that you get out there and get a copy of this book. And then make sure stay on the lookout for Jack Girls, which will be coming in November.
Correct.
So any final words that you'd like to leave us with? You're the last author on the show. You're the last author on our 3rd anniversary show. So this is your platform now.
I just want to say thank you to anybody who supported the book, whether it's buying, sharing it, telling a friend about it, or even congratulating me. And I just ask that if you purchase the book, leave a review, and don't be scared to hit me up. I talk back.
As Danielle said, the website is under construction, but we did put a link to her Instagram into the chat. So make sure you go and follow her. And by the way, Mary Evans said that she uses voice to text, but she uses otter.ai. So that might be something else you want to look at as well. OTTER.ai. Okay,
I'm going to look into that.
I've been hearing good things about that one as well. So I'm thinking about getting that one too. So just, something to look into.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
And thank you for being here, and best wishes on your books and your upcoming movie and everything that you do from here on out. I appreciate talking with you. I think this is the first time you and I have had a chance to meet, and let's not be strangers.
Definitely. All right. Thank you.
Thank you. God bless you, and you have a
You
great
too.
Okay, everybody, that brings us to the end of our 3rd anniversary show for Black Authors Matter TV. I had a blast. Yes, I miss Gwen. Gwen will be back next week, but I would not have made her feel bad for she had a great reason for missing tonight. And I'm kind of almost jealous of her. She's doing some great things tonight. So I'm sure she's having a great time. But I just want to thank all of you guys for your support. Thank you for supporting Black Authors Matter TV. Thank you for helping us to bring publicity to so many authors and literary professionals. That's what this show is all about. Gwen has always provided a platform for Black authors, and for her to have created such a powerful platform that has helped so many authors and literary professionals is just amazing. And I'm really honored to be a part of that. So if you haven't been to the National Black Book Festival, make sure that you hit it up in October in Houston. And if you're wondering what I'm doing, I have a fiction writing 5-day masterclass, which is going to be absolutely free. So if you go to the Meet the World Image Solution Facebook page, you will find more information about that. But if you are a brand new author or you're an up and coming author and you would like information on learning how to write fiction, you definitely want to be a part of that. So just go to the Meet the World Image Solutions Facebook page. But with that, that's all I have. Once again, this is Dr. Rhonda Lawson, standing in for Gwen Richardson. Thank you for being a part of Black Authors Matter TV, and we will see you next week.
Thank you for tuning in, and join us next Tuesday at 7 p.m. Central, 8 p.m. Eastern for another edition of Black Authors Matter TV.